Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back to the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast. I am Tom Mills and I'm joined by Sam Williams.
Hello.
Carl Wing.
Hello.
And Sir Bruce Fitzpatrick.
Good morning.
It's early, isn't it? I'm a little tired.
We're all a little tired. We've decided to delay the recording until after the tournament and we're all a bit snoozy. But as always, if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can get in touch with us at Cookie Jar Golf on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
And YouTube, Tom. Let's not forget YouTube.
Or one of our videos provides...
Two. There's two on there, and by the time this goes live, Bruce, there will be three. And that,
right.
my friend, is now a collection, a trilogy.
Yeah. Three's a crowd, as they say.
We're a media mega empire now these days.
Some lovely visual effects on there.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth a subscription. I would definitely solicit that from our listeners right now.
You might not realize it's a golf video because it's not half shadowed out with a caption saying this driver should be banned, but it is a golf video. It just has a normal thumbnail. So if you want to check it out, please do. But we've got a few things to talk about today. We've had a little 10-day break, which has allowed us to see two tournaments in the pro game, in the men's game. We've got the first tournament of the Rose women's game that's happened. And we've got our Macmillan longest golf challenge, which happened, which has kind of wiped us all out a bit.
My back is still creaking from that. My back is in bits from 72 holes in a day. I got out of bed this morning. It's just like, you know, when you sort of make the first steps when you get out of bed. Yeah, it's brittle. And it feels like there's a curvature in my sort of spine that is going to take at least 3 coffees and sort of 4 hours to sort of get back straight again.
If your spine was straight and not curved, I think that's when you probably have some serious health issues, Sam. Curvature of the spine is totally natural, isn't it?
Yeah, but not when I'm sort of hunched over. Either way, it feels very stiff.
The hunchback of Notre Dame.
Posture is not good.
Feet are okay. Yeah. Feet have come back.
Feet were the worst bit for me, actually.
Yeah.
I think halfway
I'm
through
feeling
the
good
third
now.
round. Yeah.
It's a bit more stretching today, just to sort of loosen up a bit more. But
getting your yoga.
No, we're good.
Well, we're recording this on Tuesday, and we did the challenge on Friday. And I actually felt pretty good, I thought, for 63 holes. And then that last 9, it just felt like, get me in now. Great fun.
For those of you that are unfamiliar with what we did a challenge called The Longest Day, which is in conjunction with Macmillan, which we're raising money for, which was 72 holes in one day, 4 rounds of golf, all walking. Did we have to carry?
We didn't, but we chose to.
It's a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's in the title. I think having a push cart wouldn't be a challenge.
Yeah, remote control push cart just wouldn't probably be in the spirit with it. But, you know, everyone's different and you got to make it challenging for the individual, haven't you? But we peer pressured one another into carrying a full set, heavy bags with multiple water bottles in there, a couple of bricks, that sort of thing, just to make it really tough.
At one point, I think I had 3 bottles of Diet Coke on board, which just really does weigh you down, which is a bit unnecessary on round 2. But what did we start? 5:45 a.m. was first tee time. We were tracking at a pretty solid 3 hours per round. I think we got waylaid a couple of times chatting to people as we were going round. So sometimes that tacked on 10, 15 minutes, but 4 rounds.
Took our time at lunch, didn't we?
Yeah, that was nice. And, you know, we finished with plenty of daylight, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
At least 45 minutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, not loads, but we were off the course by about 9-ish, weren't we? And it was quite jousty as well. There was some nice little 2-ball matches. There was Bruce, bit of a shout out to you, mate. I thought you played some pretty tidy golf. I think
Thanks.
He wasn't very happy when I saw him yesterday, and I said, you're a handful over par for 72 holes. And he was like, hang on a minute. I mean, what was it? Level, 1 over, something like that?
There was a range. Yeah, I mean, there were gimmies, weren't there? So I wouldn't want to annoy Tom Mills too much and say that I shot a cast iron 280 or something when putts were being given. But it was good fun, wasn't it? I mean, obviously it's raising money for an extremely worthy cause in Macmillan Cancer Support, which I think has been particularly affected just during the current sort of COVID pandemic and the depleted resources. So it's nice to do your bit for charity, and also just looking at the bios of other teams on that page and the sort of poignant stories. It's obviously a disease that's affected all of us, but to those of you who've done the challenge, obviously, extremely well done. It's a great thing to do. And for those of you I've noticed who have got the challenge coming up this week or next week, good luck, because it's a pretty cool sense of achievement you get, isn't it, when you finish on that 72nd hole.
Yeah, I agree. It was lovely seeing that. We've had quite a few of our listeners kind of comment and reach out to us directly. And, we know, I mean, there's one chat, Jacko is on fire, Instagram handle. They're doing it, I think, on Friday in Leamington Spa. I think particularly poignant story there. Just wanted to kind of call that out. And some money they're raising for a friend of theirs, Sam, who's going through a really tough time at the moment. And it's just amazing to see how many people do it, and also the support from listeners, friends, family, and other. So yeah, really good day. There was a couple of heartbreakers in the day as well. My little chip in on 7. I think I chipped in nearly twice in the day, which for me, as someone who hasn't chipped in since he was about 12, that felt like a bit of a red letter day for me. Chipped in twice in 7 holes, didn't you? Unbelievable start to the third round where you're like, exactly. 3 under 3 4 holes just flying. Yeah, but I mean, I was hitting the ball garbage, wasn't I? There is no way if it was club championship I would be able to chop the ball round off the stones and still be in the red numbers the way I was hitting it.
So remind me, which round was that? Because I have no recollection of that chipping.
So we did I think it was the third. Oh, right. That's bollocks, Cal, because you do.
No. I've seen the footage. It obviously happened. But I
think you were just stood at the back of the green taking it all in.
Yeah, I think I was, yeah.
We played the third round off the absolute tips, didn't we?
Okay. This is when you had that little hot streak through sort of
11, 12, 13.
Start of the back 9.
Yeah, and then 17, I think I hit a sort of a 40-yard shank off the tee. Bladed a 5-iron up short of the green. I mean, this is like our 17th is about 300-yard par 4, dogleg left. It's a pretty benign golf hole. So I've shanked, thinned a 5-iron up, dunged a chip, and then, slam dunked it on the second bounce for a par just to sort of break Bruce and Tom's heart and just keep the match alive. So a little highlight in there, but there were many, many, many highlights. Tom, what was your favourite bit?
Well, what we decided to do, because to break the monotony, just to let everyone to full disclosure to the listeners, is we decided to play a round off every tee box. So we did whites first, which are the members' tees, red second, ladies' tees, stones, which is as long as the course can play, on the third, and then we just did a little cheeky game of mix and match wolf on the last, didn't we? I did enjoy the last one with the wolf. That was quite cool. Some tees that I never get to play, like our 13th off the ladies, was quite nice. That was quite a nice hole to play. That was quite something I never really get to do. So you get to see the course from different angles as well, and it's quite although they're subtle changes, it's quite nice to see how the hole plays from some of the different tee boxes. And I mean, piggyback off your point there, I think having those those better ball matches in the first 3 rounds and then wolf in the final round, that was just a nice way of keeping it still a little bit competitive, but light enough that you could get round in a decent time. And then obviously on the side, we were able to raise a bit of money towards our page, towards Macmillan, by putting a few bets on and opening up a couple of presses. And probably the best invention we came up with was the camel, wasn't it, Sam? Do you want to talk our listeners through that concept and what happened to you on the 16th hole?
Yeah, I mean, camel's good. It's similar to, I think, if anyone's heard of the snake or the monkey or the dolphin, it's where you go in a hazard. So a snake would be 3-putt. Dolphins obviously go in the water. The camel's going in a bunker. It's fine in 18 holes because you play for a certain amount, and whoever goes in the bunker, you add it to the tally. So we were playing £1 each time. So every time one of us went into a bunker, you all of a sudden carrying the camel, which means not only is it £1, but it's every other bunker that you've been in previously. So throughout the day, you're kind of building this up, and it makes literally no difference to the first 63 holes. It's who's going to be the last one in the bunker on the back 9. And I've just hit that most garbage tee shot on 16. I mean, it was just a waft with a driver, sent it out right, and I've managed to find a bunker on the 12th hole. Desperately embarrassing. I'm then carrying a £45 camel coming in, which I then have to settle up on the charity bill, and then watch you three Muppets just sort of, strategically plot your way around bunkers for the next 2.5 holes. But
I think personally, for me, what we had the challenge as well that we were going to try and keep hold of a ball, for see if we could manage to keep hold of a ball for 72 holes. And to watch my first tee shot of the day disappear into a bush, never to be seen again.
You never want the dream to end on the first shot, do you? But
I think that was a clubbing error, because we all took sticks out the bag, didn't we? And you've given yourself a little sort of 3-wood. I think. How much would you say it was teed up? I would say sort of somewhere between £1 mil and £1.5 million.
I was literally going to say the same.
5:45 a.m. You've just given yourself it's 100% strike, isn't it? There was no margin for error. That's why I stuck the dog in the bag for the first round.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the forecast of, I think the first 2 rounds, as expected, it was breezy, it was raining. My thinking was, you're going to need everything you've got.
Just get that thing on a high tee peg and just try and make contact. I think was my overriding. Yeah.
Good fun.
So, the dream finishing on the first strike probably wasn't ideal of the day, but
I wasn't far behind you. I think I made it to the 8th hole of the day.
The first round.
Can we just say that was some of the worst course management I've seen on a golf course, Cal?
I could not believe what I was saying there. Downwind, he's just thinking, you know what? It's 6 a.m. I'm going to try and get an eagle here. He's pulled driver out while it's absolutely bunting it downwind and just carried this thing into a hazard. I couldn't believe you struck it well, but the aggression there.
Yeah, it was launched, and it was. That's why the route I took, usually you're fine, but no, I probably didn't appreciate the downwind, and naturally the bit of adrenaline you've got at sort of 7 a.m.
Touch of the Billy Elliots on the follow through, little tippy toe.
No,
fancy feet.
I play the game as I see it, and it happened to be aggressive.
But no, it was a good day, wasn't it? It was what was really touching, I think, is we've done this kind of we've asked people for sponsorship, and people have been very generous, but actually been generous with their money, but lots of people were very generous with their time. And actually at 5:30 in the morning, we had people turning up to see us tee off, and I thought that was quite special, actually. And people were coming around the course throughout the day and giving us food and drink and trying to walk a few holes with us and keep us going. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
I reached a point where I could eat no more pork-based sandwiches, though. By about 11, I'd people's hospitality I was tapped out on that after a while.
That was awesome.
Not seeing a sausage sandwich.
You'd done bacon, sausage, and ham, the holy sort of triumvirate. So that was kind of enough pork-based food, wasn't it? Really, at that point.
A couple of pork chops left, I think.
But just to sort of round this one off, I think it's a really good challenge. Obviously, we've got a lot of listeners outside the UK who won't be familiar with Macmillan, but a fantastic charity that does a lot of work for cancer support victims and families. If similar challenges exist in the States or the rest of the world, would be keen to hear about it. But if not, definitely something to go and set up with some friends wherever you may live.
But one thing we are going to do is we'll chuck the link to the Just Giving page on our website. So if any of you wish to be kind enough to drop, I mean, let's face it. If each one of our listeners give £1 each, we'd have at least £4 or £5 by the end of this. So
at least 4 or 5. Does that include us listening to it as well, or?
So if anyone wants to donate, it would be very much appreciated. But let's move on from Macmillan and let's go on to the pro game and do a little bit about that. We've had a little hiatus.
Tournament golf has returned in earnest, hasn't it?
Let's tick off the really obvious things first. How overdone is the Bryson chat?
So boring.
Probably. I mean, he's been eating He's been in the gym. He's put on about 3 stone, and he's been eating
a lot of pork. He's been eating a lot of pork-based products, hasn't he? Yeah.
He looks.
To be
he's
fair,
got a weird body shape though, and I mean, we could do 20 minutes on this, couldn't we? And despite the fact it's been overcovered, but he just looks weird as well. He doesn't look.
Doesn't look well.
No, it is impressive. I mean, what he's done, objectively speaking, it is impressive that he has gone from being a sort of fairly middle of the road hitter in terms of distance, and he's now getting it out there further than probably even Cameron Champ. And obviously, you know, it's getting to the point now where around Colonial and Harbour Town, those are courses where he can't use his sort of full driver swing, apparently, because he's hidden it so far. And yeah, fair play to the guy. He's always been a bit of an innovator and tried to sort of push the envelope and straddle that line between genius and madness. But yeah, if I'm being completely honest, I kind of agree with you guys. I don't find it an attractive golf swing or an attractive brand of golf to play. And, you know, obviously that's kind of irrelevant in the long run, because if it delivers a winning formula, then that's all that really matters to him. But yeah, I mean, speaking myself personally, I don't think it's the most enjoyable sort of brand of golf to watch.
But I've got 2 things on this that I think are, first of all, I feel like the media are using it as a scapegoat for anything that goes wrong with him. So if he misses a putt, he's too big. You know, it's like ridiculous. It's just, I feel like there is this, from the old boys of golf, there is this movement of, not anti-fitness, because I think that would be unfair, but you remember when Rory got big and they were like, oh yeah, he's just got too big. It's just like, he's not big. They're just athletes now. They're just not fat boys that walk around and, you know, it's not the John Daly's of this world. And actually, I feel like if someone was, say Bryson was naturally fat, right, to start with. Imagine if he was just a fat dude and he came out and he'd lost 30 pounds. They wouldn't be like blaming everything on the weight loss. Like they blame it on his weight gain. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's interesting because Darren Clark, you know, in his sort of, in his more recent years, I think, lost quite a lot of weight and slimmed down and looked like, you know, in really good nick, and just didn't play well at all by all accounts. I think the record of golfers substantially changing their body types and still maintaining performance at high level isn't a great one. I mean, obviously Bryson's pretty early into that sort of process, and I guess it remains to be seen how consistent he'll be. But it just seems like the golf swing's quite sensitive to actually not even just the golf swing, but putting, short game, all the different aspects to it is quite sensitive to changes in the human body. And yeah, I mean, he likes to sort of portray himself as that mad scientist figure who's always going to try and push the envelope a bit. It's just, as you guys say, I mean, the fact that it's talked about every week on coverage for a grand total of probably 2-3 hours, you know, throughout the course of the week just makes it a bit annoying, doesn't it, really? We just need to wait and see how it plays out.
I mean, I think he started, was it top five?
At Colonial, he was top 3 strokes game approach. So,
and where was he this week? He was He was tied 8th this week.
Yeah, I mean, his numbers,
and he was big.
I mean, it was he's hitting it long, but his numbers are good, approaching the green, you know, strokes gain, scrambling, all that kind of stuff. I just think the media's now almost turned it into. I remember a few years ago, I was quite keen to see. I thought Bryson was really interesting, and I kind of semi-rooted for him. At the moment, he's right up there with Patrick Reed. I think I said to you WhatsApp, you know, if it's a playoff between Patrick Reed and Bryson, I'm rooting for a thunderstorm. You know, I just have no interest in watching either of them win. So I don't know. Maybe that's a simple.
Why is that though?
I don't know.
Why is that?
I just totally. Whether it's just listening to nauseating commentary about distance and size, and then we're guilty of it now because we've just jumped into a 5-minute monologue on the topic. But I think you're right, Bruce. We've got to give it time and see how it all plays out for him. There's a lot of golfers in history who what he's trying to achieve has, you know, had an adverse impact on their game.
I guess he didn't help himself, did he, last year, or perhaps it was the year before, where he kind of had his meltdown on the driving range at the Open, and then I think that was followed up with him giving a fairly dismissive handshake to Richard McAvoy. I think when McAvoy won the Porsche Open in Germany.
Yeah.
Just a couple of things like that. I mean, people can be sensitive, and those sort of actions seem to cast pretty long shadows in the golf world. I mean,
people say he's a great guy. Actually, a lot of people really like him.
Yeah.
But like you say, there's a few things where he doesn't particularly ingratiate himself with fans, I'd say.
He does seem one of the most committed to what he does. I mean, there's not many people that would put the effort in that he's put in to put on the weight, to get the swing fast. I mean, the weight is one thing, but the swing speed now is through the roof. I mean, and he's fine in the middle of the bat. It's not like he's just swinging like a lunatic. And he's obviously put the work in.
It's weird, though. I've heard him talk about golf before, and he's a sort of a Brooks Koepka figure in some sense, in that he is actually, I think his overriding passion with golf is the swing and optimum sort of, launch numbers and angles and that kind of stuff. He doesn't actually play golf for fun or enjoyment. He actually just sees competitive tournament golf as its own distinct thing, and then the majority of his practice time is on a range, which is, I guess, pretty antithetical to most of our listeners who just like getting out and playing a lot and playing 36 holes a day and playing foursomes and that sort of stuff. So who knows?
You don't think he's loading the buggy up with bright lights?
No Sprat Zero.
Moving on to Harbour Town and Pete Dye. I think it was great to see the heritage back. Certainly early into the sort of post-lockdown tournaments and what have you. And I think it's a great track, to be honest. Really enjoy watching it there. It's the way the guys have got to plot their way around and everything else, especially when the wind gets blowing. Saying that, still 22 under, still won it. So it's obviously very scoreable, despite having to manage your way around. But overall, great watch.
Obscene scoring, truly obscene. But it's an interesting course to watch them play. I mean, you've played there, haven't you, Bruce?
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I loved it. Yeah, I thought it was a very just picturesque, pretty golf course. I get maybe those aren't the right adjectives to use if you're a knowledgeable golf architect lover, but I liked it. I thought, it's very demanding off the tee. I think you'd have a pretty horrible time going around there if you're not hitting the ball well off the tee, because it's tree lined and it's pretty tight. But yeah, I thought it had some great holes, like a great mixture of sort of decent strategic kind of par fives, where there's an emphasis on really putting the ball in the right part of the fairway, not just the fairway in general, like it, because there's a good use of dog legs and angles there, and tiny greens as well. Like the premium on hitting the fairway is extremely high. I think the scoring was obviously really low this week in comparison to what it's normally like in April. I think it's typically the first or second event after the Masters in April, and so it seems like a lot of people are saying the wind just wasn't anywhere near as much of a factor as it usually is. And added to which, the course is probably a bit softer. The greens were a bit more receptive than they normally were, which probably accounts for the fact that so many people were, 18, 19 under and better. But yeah, I mean, the course looks great, doesn't it, on the TV, and certainly those finishing couple of holes down by the bay,
I think
really nice.
There's a lot worse tournament courses out there. I think there's a lot talked about Pete Dye and kind of trickery and some of his own flares there. And you look at, it's just neat seeing some, very quirky pot bunkering around the greens. Clearly, that's where they get this soundbite around all the railroad sleepers that they use on, water features and stuff, which I actually don't think he does in every single one of his designs, certainly from what I've read. But course sets up quite well. It's quite interesting. What was remarkable was watching it come in with the players that were out there in the field. I think at one point I was rooting for Hatton, and I thought, birdie, par, birdie. Just think there's no way this guy can't win. He's essentially kind of 54-hole leader, or he was right up there, and he's clearly going to shoot 65. Unless you were shooting below 65, you were going backwards in that field. I think Answer is the first player in tournament history to have either led or co-led at 54 holes and shot 65 or below and not won the tournament.
Yeah, it's
Which-
staggering, isn't
And
it?
I actually felt bad for Answer because you look at it. I think I looked into the numbers in a little bit more detail. He was 56 out of 57 putts made inside 7 feet. You know, he's hit something like 32 of the last 33 greens in reg. And you're thinking the guy's scored off the charts. He must have come away from Sunday out of everyone just thinking, what have I got to do? Like, and then
Well, particularly when you got Azinger on you probably got Azinger and those types of commentators being like, "Oh yeah, Abe Answer's not quite won on the PGA Tour yet. You know, has he really got the bottle for it? It's like he's top 30 in the world. Like, come on."
Yeah, he's shot 6 under in the final round and hasn't won.
Yeah.
He was Answer was an absolute stripe fest, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it
just
was
striking it, unreal.
It's good to see sneakily up there for a top 5, sort of 3 back was Garcia.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
under the radar the whole week.
Yeah, I
wasn't
think he had 0 coverage throughout. But
Also, we need to pick this up. Did you see the quote from Garcia talking about Nick Watney getting COVID-19?
Oh, this was clickbait central, wasn't it?
So let me just. I've got it on my
classic Garcia, just
my
stoking
device
the fire.
So I'm going to read you the quote verbatim. Sergio Garcia. Well, the first thing, my reaction was I was surprised. I felt terrible for Nick because he's probably one of the nicest guys on tour. Unfortunately, it had to happen to him. There's a lot of other guys that probably deserve it more. But he's the one that's got it. Who deserves COVID, Sergio?
Not surprisingly, the media outlets have latched onto that in a big way. But he
Yeah.
was under the radar, wasn't he? All week. And then I
Seemed
remember
to play
looking at it
pretty well.
thinking he's a slightly controversial opinion here, but 2 standout tournaments, both Colonial and RBC Heritage, thought both great last days of golf to watch. Because they're not majors, I don't think it was noticeable, the lack of spectators actually either. And because, like a lot of these courses in America, they play through housing developments, you seem to have people camped out, providing some levity from the sidelines. But the past 2 winners have had arguably not the most textbook golf swings either. I mean, Berger's looks on a knife edge, and Webb's not known for his. I think there's a.
Bruce, do I need to remind you of?
Yeah,
I stand by that. I do stand by that. I think there are far easier ways to swing the golf club than Webb Simpson. The amount of face rotation that guy has in his golf swing, like, he's got world-class timing at the bottom. So fair play to him. Obviously, you wouldn't change it now, and he's got some serious metal under the gun, as he's proven before at the Players, the US Open, Harbour Town. I mean, the fact that, those are 3 exceptional tournaments to have on your resume, aren't they? So, I mean, the guy's literally on the way to the Hall of Fame, probably, with a swing that is, by all accounts, utterly budget. So I can only I can only congratulate the guy.
To be fair, one of the best putters on tour, certainly since he's dropped the belly putter back in 2014. He's got pretty used to this long arm thing. Whatever that's going, but it's working for him. And I think on another note, I mean, Berger's almost gone back to back. And I think he's had something like 30, 31, 32 rounds in the 60s.
Yeah.
So he's literally,
There's only 2 people, aren't there? I think, is it? So Woods carries the record at about 54 rounds consecutively under par. So he's at 32 now.
But Berger's in the 60s as well, which that does make a small difference, doesn't it? As well in that record. So I wonder whether it'll be interesting to see how the tour events with this condensed schedule, like what the sort of level of play looks like in a month or so's time, maybe even later in the season, because at the moment, like the way I see it, and I have not watched all that much of the golf, but just looking at the leaderboards, obviously you've got particularly star-studded fields in the main, because everyone wants to get back out there and play, given that the world ranking points are resuming. And they've also had a layoff as well. So they've had a layoff. They've had a chance to like rest up, sharpen parts of their game, just sort of go about their practice in the most kind of diligent and unfettered way as possible. But I think later in the season, when that fatigue starts to set in, you could well see the leaderboards start to spread out a bit more, and you might not have the same concentration of scoring that we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah, maybe. It certainly makes for good viewing. Any idea where Fleetwood is? Missed the last two, hasn't he? I don't know when he's back out there and playing.
Well, he's in the UK, isn't he?
He's UK based, isn't he?
But
McIlroy actually made some.
Could get out there, couldn't he? I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
but you got to quarantine for 2 weeks. And I think McIlroy made some pointed comments, or comments that were probably just totally reasonable, but as the media always does, they just blow them out of proportion. He kind of said, yeah, we'll do the same. But he said, I think he said, the world ranking points have got to kind of resume at some point, and if this is your livelihood, if this is your career, and you're a kind of top 10, top 20 golfer in the world, then you should probably be coming out to play in these events that are the first events back, and they're also jam-packed with very talented fields. But I think Molinari and Fleetwood, understandably, have decided to stay in the UK and probably wait things out a bit longer. It would be brutal, wouldn't it, flying out to the States in the middle of a pandemic, having to quarantine yourself for 2 weeks, and then resume tournament golf basically on your own with no sort of prospect of seeing close friends and family. So,
well, it's interesting because there seems to be a curbing of the coronavirus here in the UK, and the US hasn't sort of hit that point yet. So whether you'd want to go out there to play golf and isolate yourself as much as they're going to need to, and I'm not sure they want to do that, especially since you've got the European Tour kicking up soon. Here in the UK, I mean, there's a whole series of events coming soon.
The UK Swing, isn't there? They're starting end of July.
But these guys in the top 25, they want world ranking points, don't they? I mean, Hatton's come out like absolutely all guns blazing, hasn't he? Obviously, finished on the back of the last win at the Arnold Palm, which was the last one pre-lockdown, and then nearly went sort of back to back in terms of his two starts, and he's now 16th in the world. He's accumulating points. When if Fleetwood and some of these other guys don't get back out there, then they're moving backwards, stood still, aren't they? Really.
And of course, that's not the only golf that we've got going on. We've got the Rose Ladies Series that was here in the UK, and we had the first one in Brockenhurst, won by Charlie Hull, which was good. I mean, it's quite exciting towards the end. She doubled 17 to go back to. She was leading by 2, and then doubled 17 to go back to level,
par, wasn't she? Yeah.
Yeah. So that was quite interesting. One in a playoff. So it's good to see some golf back in the ladies tour as well.
It's a good week of events as well, and they've got like St George's is on there, so that'll be that'll be a great spectacle to see them play there. They're also playing JCB, which is a new track, and in Staffordshire, and I think that's also hosting one of the UK events. I might have dreamt that, but that'll be quite interesting to see on TV. That's kind of flown in quite hot into the rankings since it was opened in 2017.
Yeah,
we're going to get out to a couple of these events, aren't we? I think, and spend a bit of time there. It'll be very. You've done JCB, have you, Cal?
Yeah, it's made for tournament golf to some degree. Yeah, it's very, very, very long off the back. It's interesting. It's, I think from memory, something like the 17th par 3. Downhill, Highland Greens, surrounded by water from memory, and it was something like 250, 260 off the back. And if it blows, it's just
the definition of a penal golf hole.
I'm not quite sure how you play it, really, but it'll do well. It's obviously been there, designed to at some point host if they get it, whether it can be if they can get up to the level of a World Golf Championship or. Maybe even Ryder Cup. It'll be an interesting one.
The normality there, Cal, is it like, do they play at 180 if you were going to play that normally, that hole?
Oh, yeah, they've got sort of like 5-6 tees on there. So
you've got some front tees, Tom, you'd be able to play from if you wanted to have a little go.
Yeah. As long as it's like a sub 100, maybe I could turn it into a little pitch and putt.
Yeah, something like that for you. Just something that you can get enjoyment from it as well as the big
hits. Yeah, greens are fantastic, very undulating, and a proper challenge. Bit of a beast to walk. I think most of the time you're pretty much given a buggy.
Right.
But yeah, it's a big walk, big distance in between greens and tees and what have you. But it's certainly one to watch. They've
also got Bearwood Lakes on their schedule, which is supposed to be...
Bearwood Lakes is good, yeah. Done that down down in Berkshire.
So that'll be good to follow up on. Hopefully we can get out there and cover that a bit more in depth for you guys. Coming up, though, we've got next week the TPC River Highlands.
Sounds like a guy who's just reading it from his computer as we speak.
And I know you wouldn't do that on a podcast, Tom. I know you'd come better prepared than just reading from your screen.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about the Travellers while you've got it loaded up on Wikipedia?
It was one of those ones where you start saying it and you think, oh, I need to look over there and check this is right. So yeah, TPC River Highlands. Pete Dye design, another Pete Dye design. So,
and I think this has pretty much kept the field as what we had last week, more or less. I think certainly those top players have agreed to play the first 3 events.
Right.
And then I think it starts to tail off.
Interesting, isn't it? I wonder how the logistics of all this are going to work, because with Watney getting COVID, I mean, I remember hearing earlier in the lockdown, well before Colonial, that there were plans mooted to have essentially a PGA Tour Dreamliner, airplane to basically ferry the players from stop to stop, and buses and all sorts of things, just to almost try and keep some kind of contained sort of safe space, really, to ensure that the likelihood of contracting COVID or the need to do tests all the time would be mitigated. But yeah, given how, without wanting to make it too political, but given how lax the US has been over the lockdown and just the diversity of experience in the States, you fear that it's only a matter of time before another PGA Tour player gets COVID, and I guess it indicates that they're going to have to be so stringent with the regulations and trying to make sure that they keep social distancing at all these tour stops, because between the events, the players are off, seeing different people, going to different places. It just seems like a logistical nightmare.
I know it sounds ridiculous, but I find it watching the TV. And the caddies are, they're always handling the flags. They're getting the flag out, and then
they've got a little cloth though on their hands, a little handpiece.
Yeah, what they're doing.
Yeah, if you look at the small details, the finer details.
Handpiece.
Yeah,
could you sort some cookie banded ones, Carl?
It's almost like a cloth. I'm not sure, but anyway, that's how it works. Yeah, I've sort of looked at it closely when I was watching the coverage.
Oh, right.
Is that what they're doing? So just they're getting their handpiece out, and then
it's like a little cloth. They'll grab it with a cloth.
Okay. And I'll retract that then.
Lovely.
they do, giving it the fist pump and all quite lax, isn't it? But maybe this
seems to be getting a bit close at times. But who knows? Well, it will go on. A lot of players were saying they weren't happy outside of Heritage. It was sort of very much tourism as usual, and restaurants and bars were packed and.
It wasn't it, Mr. Yarwood?
Well, they've also got the Trump rally, haven't they, where they're all just jamming in. So I don't think they care that much about social distancing.
Really, in South Carolina?
Well, no, just in America. I think they're just
earlier in the week. Yeah.
So it's I think it is what it is, and the PGA Tour players now with Watton again, they're going to have to just be extra diligent, really, if we want, because it's not going to take that much, really, is it, to cancel the tour? If 4 or 5 of them get it, so they all got tested next week, and now 4 or 5 players get it. Really got an
Shit
option,
straight then, aren't we? Well, let's just keep our fingers crossed. So I think we've got a busy couple of weeks coming up now. We know we're doing some stuff. 90 years, Grand Slam. There's a bit of a special coming up on that one. We're very excited to bring that to you, but we're not going to give you any more spoilers at this stage. Obviously, some stuff happening on the event side that we've talked about and everything. So we've got a fairly busy couple of weeks on the cookie jar front, boys.
Trying to get into videography a little bit more using Mr. Mills's expertise, as always. So it'd be great to hear from listeners what you think to some of the video content that we're trying to push out a bit more of, casting aside our 4 ugly mugs. Hopefully it's a slightly different bit of content to share, and got videos of Sam getting lucky with a chip in, that kind of thing. It's just a nice bit of variety, isn't it?
Well, look, if our arty stuff doesn't pay off, we can always just go into course vlogs and obscene ball reviews.
Yeah, just talk about new driver technology. I think that's fascinating. There's not much of that. None of that's particularly well covered out on YouTube at the moment. So it'd be nice to talk about sort of latest clubhead technology.
I think so. Well, until then, the new schedule, as you may have noticed, we're going to start dropping on Wednesdays just to give us time to cover events that have happened over the weekend. So keep tuned for Wednesday episodes, and we will speak to you again soon.
Adios.
Watch
Bye.
this.